Hello, my name is Amber and welcome to my creative space. Today we're going to do a crochet update. Believe it or not, it has been a while since I've filmed any crochet videos. That's the nature of YouTube, that sometimes what you see as the posting schedule of the videos does not line up with life. So it's literally been close to 2 months since I filmed any crochet content, and I was getting nervous because I'm like, I'm working on these projects, I'm still working on them, but I don't know how to necessarily film about them because they're not done. So I can't necessarily do project videos where you have the beginning and the end and showing the whole process. So I've decided I will try to do an update video. So the last video that you saw and project you saw was the star blanket. And at the end of the star blanket, I was trying to figure out what my next step was because I had really run out of yarn, and that's not true. I had my yarn stash, so my goal was to potentially find a new project to work with my existing yarn. But my real desire was to make a shawl, which would require me to purchase yarn, and I didn't necessarily have the funds for it. So at the moment, I actually have two projects going on. One of them, I don't know if I'm going to ever really finish. I'll more than likely end up ripping it out, and I'll show it to you. And the other one is actually the shawl. And the only reason I'm able to do that is from a gift from my family of being able to buy new yarn, which was very generous and very kind, and I'm thoroughly enjoying working on the project. So the yarn stash project I have going on, I haven't touched in a rather long time, probably a month or so. But this is a chunky, it has like ribbons going through it. It's a very interesting yarn I have in my yarn stash. And so that's one skein there. And then as you go further up the project, then you move into a new yarn that I thought went well with the colors and everything. And the idea was just to continue on with this solid color until I got to the length I was interested in, and then finish off with this other one to make a very interesting scarf. And I actually started that project and restarted it 3 or 4 different times, trying different methods. I tried a triangle bandana because I was like, I'm into shapes, so I'll try different shapes. And I've reacquainted myself as to why that yarn is still in my stash and has not been used, because it's extremely difficult to see the structure of your stitches when you're crocheting. So if you're trying to do anything specific or anything that's building off of it, it's very frustrating and hard to see. And I also realized, yes, this triangle shapes would be really cool, and they have all these interesting, stitches and everything that would be very beautiful if you could even see it. And you can't see it with this yarn because this yarn itself has so much texture and so much interest that it's hard to distinguish the stitches. So this was just fine, I just want to figure something out. So this is just Tunisian crochet. I believe it would be considered a yarn overlace because I'm alternating where I'm putting the stitch. But my main difficulty with it, and probably why I'm going to end up pulling it out, is I don't particularly like it. I don't particularly need it. And I have no reason to be doing it other than to using up my yarn. I don't have it like, okay, this is a specific gift for somebody or a specific use for something. All the other projects I've done, there's been a purpose outside of just to be busy or just to do something. And there was definitely a pressure of, well, I want to make another video, so I need to do a project. I really don't want to get into that habit of just making something purely for content. I truly want this to be a reflection of my current hobbies and my current interests, because that's the only way it'll be sustainable for me. So, like I said, I don't really have a purpose for this. And I don't need something to just keep me busy. So more than likely this is going to be pulled out, and I'll put the yarn away in my stash and revisit it at some point and maybe come up with something else. If you have any ideas of how to use this crazy, chunky, very beautiful, very interesting, but very challenging yarn, please let me know, because I am kind of at a scratching my head point. I have another yarn similar to this. It doesn't necessarily have the ribbon chunks in it, but it's another one where it's very nubby and very hard to see your stitches, and it just morphs into one big clump after you've crocheted it. So this isn't the only yarn that I'm having challenges with, so I would love to hear about it. But that being said, I have been crocheting. I've been crocheting consistently for over 2 months in this other project, and I am really enjoying it. But it's one of those projects where you have to have a full brain and you have to pay attention while you're doing it. It's not a take-along project and do mindlessly while you're waiting for something else. So it hasn't been going as fast as it could have because of the nature of the project. But my family, I was able to purchase some new yarn, and it's this. It's my first time purchasing yarn since, well, is it? I was gonna say first time purchasing yarn since Joann's went out. But I had to buy yarn for the sampler blanket, and I did that online, so Joann's must have been out then too. But this is my first time actually going into Michael's and looking at yarn and choosing something. And this is very, very soft and very pleasant to feel. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to work with because it has the habit of clinging to itself and knotting into itself because it's rather fuzzy. So that's a little bit frustrating, but once you just know that you have to immediately wind the whole thing into a new ball and not try to work from this, it works out easier. But it's definitely one that I would really, really like to never have to pull out because, like I said, it becomes one thing. And it's hard to pull it out because it just melds into itself. So, but it's a beautiful yarn and it feels wonderful. So this is the yarn I got. And I got 4 skeins based on the measurements. This is an actual pattern that I bought online. And they gave me yardage and everything. And so I bought according to the yardage, and I'm going to end up having lots of it left over. And I think the main thing is I needed a needle that was a little bit bigger than what I have. It's challenging because this particular pattern needs a long needle, and I only have one particularly long needle. And I went to Michael's and I could not find long needles that weren't massively chunky. So I'm kind of hindered by my needle. And so overall, the whole gauge of this project is probably ended up being a little bit smaller than what the pattern intended, but I'm just going to go with it. So let me show you. This is a pattern from Yarn Andy, and it is So this page are all the repeating rows of this pattern, plus 3. There's 3 other rows on a previous page that you go through. So you have 24 repeating rows that you're going over and over again, and you do that, I believe, 14 times. Because the whole pattern is called the Plumeria Capelet Tunisian crochet pattern. So it's going to be a capelet made up of different feathers. So you have 14 feathers, and so it takes 24 repeating rows to make one feather. So that's why this is taking a while, and that's why it takes attention, because every single row is different. Yes, there's repeating elements, you know, there's your simple crochet or your Tunisian simple stitch, there's your 2 together, there's your yarn over, there's one instance in this whole thing where there's actually a 3 together. There's a couple times where you actually do skip a stitch. What's interesting is this is my first time ever working with short rows, and I get the impression that's more common in knitting, or maybe just patterns that are not just squares or rectangles. Because like I said, I'm exploring different shapes, and this is all new to me. So I've got to experience what short rows are and how to work with them to make different shapes. So see all my check marks of all the different rows I've done. So I am getting towards the end, I believe. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I am working on my 13th feather. So I have, after this, I have one more feather to go, and then because the distance is smaller than what they were talking about, I'm going to try it on and see if I need to add extra rows around the collar to make it as long as I'd like it to be. But let me, without further ado. So this is going to be where the collar is. That's, and then it comes down into the feathers. Can you see? And so you can see the feathers round out on the end, and it goes all the way down. And so it's one feather repeated 14 times. So I guess this would be considered eyelet work, because there are eyelets that you're changing its location. I just realized I'm showing you the back the whole time. So here, have a gander on the front. Because there's definitely a distinction between fronts and backs with Tunisian crochet. So you can see there's a nice rib in the center of the feather. There's also a rib separating the feather, and that rib is actually a purl stitch. It makes it stand up like that. But I think it's absolutely pretty beautiful. This is actually kind of a warm-up pattern to the one I actually want to do. Even more than this, it's called the macaw. But my understanding is that's not just one feather repeated. It's there's multiple variations of the different feathers, so it looks much more organic, like feathers laying on top of each other. But I think it's beautiful. I am curious to see if 14 is long enough to go around me completely, or if I might end up doing more than 14 feathers. But I have to finish the 14 before I can make any of those choices or decisions about adding extra on the collar or adding more feathers or what I want to do. But this has definitely been keeping me occupied. So like I said, I've been doing this for at least 2 months, if not a little bit longer, because the star blanket was finished sometime in August, and almost immediately I started on this. You know, it's like I finished the star blanket, and that day or the next day I went shopping for new yarn. So, and my poor needle. I don't know if it's going to even show up on camera, but it is not straight anymore. I'm rotating it. This is what happens when you're got some tension and you're not relaxing into your hobby. You get a bent needle. But this is my only needle that was actually long enough for this project, because there are some rows where you have 88 stitches, and so you need the space to pack on 88 stitches onto a needle. I do have corded Tunisian crochet needles, but I don't know that I have any ones that are necessarily thicker than this. So that is another project I want to do relatively soon. My needles, my crochet needles, have seemed to have expanded, and yeah, my collection has grown, and my little needle holder no longer holds them because it was never meant for Tunisian needles. So at some point I want to make a new needle holder for myself that actually fits my entire needle collection. So that'd be more of a sewing project. But that's what I've been up to in terms of crochet. Like I said, this one will more than likely be taken out and put back into my stash because I just am not inspired by it at all. And this one is definitely, I'm nearing the conclusion. I'm excited about that. I did film an intro video for this, but it's been so long. I'm just like, who knows? You know, yes, theoretically I'm close to the end of the project and it shouldn't be that long before I can film about it, but I also don't want to have this pressure of you need to finish the project because you need to get another video out. So I'm just trying to find ways to honestly depict the hobbies that I'm currently engaged in at the pace that I'm engaged in without artificially pressuring myself and letting it be just a sharing of the journey. But there's also, like, especially like with the painting videos, there's some accountability of I want to be doing this thing, and making the videos is helping me be consistent in doing the thing. So there's this give and take with content creation and life. But I definitely don't want to get into the burnout, frustration, I'm resenting making videos because of what it's doing to my life sort of situation. So that's my crochet update. Unless things drastically change, I'll probably stick with this and do a crochet update probably like once a month and say, hey, this is what I'm working on, this is where I am. If I end up having some smaller projects come up that will be simpler to just shoot a project video on and say, this is the beginning, this is the end, this is the product I made, you know, the project's complete, yay. Yeah, I'll probably make videos on those. But considering I'm more than likely going to finish this and then start another one similar to this, and it's going to be just as complicated, if not more complicated, you know, maybe there might be something else between this and the next feather cape. Because I did run across, one of you had some playlists listed for crochet, and you had a really cute pattern with paw prints in it, which is amazingly cute. It was made, I'm assuming, through like eyelets where you just yarn over to leave a hole, and it comes out in the shape of a paw, which is absolutely cute. Just trying to think, who would I give that to and how would I use it? Because there's only so much stuff my home can use. But maybe I could make them, I don't know, for an animal rescue? Maybe make scarves and they can sell it in the front of their shop for a little bit of profit to help support the puppies. I don't know. But it's got my attention and got me interested and curious. But that's as far as it's gone at this point. It's just, wow, that's really cute. Add it to my crochet to try videos, so I can reference it later. So if you have any crochet suggestions for projects or inspiration or videos you can recommend, please let me know in the comments, because I am definitely open. I am definitely open to suggestions. So until next time, feel free to like and subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!